You know what? Coming back the second time was so much easier because I learned so much from the first time. And, you know, people ask all the time, what would it be like to go back to be 18 years old again, but have all that knowledge in your head of where you are today? Like, what would your life look like?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it was when I came back. I knew everything that I should do. I knew everything that I shouldn't do. And I knew everything that, you know, it would take to get things rolling again, and just being able to implement all that knowledge because I had it all in my head.
All right, guys, welcome to True Talk. Got my man Mike Pfeil with us today. How we doing, bro?
Good, man. Appreciate you having me in.
Absolutely, dude. Thanks for coming up.
Thank you.
Dude, True Talk, so we like to kind of give people an idea of, like, who's behind the producer, right? We don't do a lot of sales training on True Talk, more about the story. And your story is very unique. You know, you joined us twice, right?
Yeah, man.
It's funny, we can laugh about it now, but you, your background, though, you were not in life insurance prior to joining us, right? What was your background?
I had a mortgage company before I got into an insurance. And
how long did you have that for?
I did that for about 12 years. We were doing a lot of veteran loans back then.
Okay.
And companies started pulling out of that. And we had like all of our eggs in one basket. And we did that because of the crash. So we shifted to that because it was working.
Got it.
But then, man, by 2010, like, things really took a big hit. Yeah. So I stayed in it for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Then I got into insurance in like 14.
Got it.
Is when I got in.
So '08 market crash. Everyone else in mortgages are like out of business. You know, so I had Frank on recently. And he's like, dude, it was a mess for us.
Yeah.
You guys had one of your best years. Yep. Next year, you did about half of that.
Yep.
And then the year after that, you did a fraction of it.
Yeah,
like,
took a big hit.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was that like? That was 2010?
That was 2010.
Yeah.
It was rough, man, to go from having that and the problem is I was you know, in my 30s. I know we talked before about people come into this business and they're usually not in a good financial.
Yeah.
That's how I was, you know. I stayed in for a little bit longer, you know, another 4 years. I toughed it out.
Oh, you did. So
Yeah.
20. Yeah.
I had a big office, man. I ended up downsizing twice to keep my head afloat. And then I went more from running like a company that had 50 salespeople to, you know, I had like 3 or 4 guys and I was back to selling myself. And that's how I kind of limped along for 4 years. But I finally got tired of the ups and downs, and I saw something. I met a guy actually, and then introduced me to Frank, and that's how I met Frank. So finally, when I got out in 14, I was like, I'm done. I'm never gonna go back to that. I'm gonna do something completely different. So that's how I ended up here.
What was that feeling like? Because you built up a successful mortgage company, did really well, and then everyone else is falling apart. Y'all are still doing good, and then it just falls out completely. Do you remember that feeling?
And that was definitely one of the toughest times of my entire life, man. To go through something like that, and it's hard to believe that it happened. But I kind of look back, and I'm glad that it happened at a young age. I remember when it happened. And I'm still in my mid-30s, and I'm like, you know, I can still do this. You know, well, I think I was almost 40 when that happened, but I was like, I still got time. I can make something happen. So it took a while to be able to do.
And you had daughter at the time, right?
Yeah, I had 2 kids.
Two kids.
My daughter, my son.
Yeah.
And that's why when I got into insurance, and people talk about all the time about how difficult it is, and I was like, I had no choice.
Yeah.
Like, I got a wife. I have 2 kids. For a little bit, I told my wife, I said, one of us are going to have to go out and get a real job. So that was her.
Yeah.
She had to go out and get a real job while I could still, kind of figure things out. And I said, I promise you, as soon as I figure things out in insurance, you can come back home and you don't have to work. She hadn't worked in like a while, a couple of years.
Wow.
But she had to go back to work and have a steady check. And then.
How old were the kids at that time?
Oh, man. My daughter, she was probably 5.
Okay.
My son was maybe, 2.
Your wife is not working anymore, raising the kids, right? And then to go home and go, hey, you got to get a real job now. Dude, how did that feel?
Yeah, when people ask, like, how'd you do it, I don't know how I did it. I just say I had no choice.
You didn't know Frank yet. How were you introduced to this business?
I met some guy down in Virginia. I was trying to figure out what I was going to do, and I drove down to Virginia. They had a very small office. There was 3 or 4 people in there. And then he goes, I know a guy in Maryland. I was like, really? And so he ended up introducing me to Frank, who lived like 10, 15 minutes from me.
Really?
So that's how Frank and I met. Yeah. I got into the business that
way. Why life insurance? Did you?
Man, I contemplated, and I looked. I was like looking all over him. What kind of job can I get? I was actually done. I was like, I don't ever want to be self-employed again. I knew I needed to build a company. I was like, I got to do that to be able to get my life back on track.
Got it.
And so, I looked around, and when I saw insurance, it very closely resembled the mortgage business. So it made sense to me. I go out and make sales, put things in underwriting, it closes, and I get paid. I mean, so the business models seemed.
So you figured it'd be a simpler transition than going elsewhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I got into this, Mike, and when I did it, I thought because I had success in the mortgage business, and I thought because I was on the phone selling that I could come in here and do this, man, it could have been farther from the truth. Mortgages are very simple. You know, you're saving some money, and it's very, very transactional. It's like, hey, do you want to save $500 a month? I mean, it's cut and dry. And I remember getting involved with this, and people would say, you sound like a salesperson. I was like, what does that mean? What does that mean? But I was trying to sell insurance, and I had to learn that this is a sales job, but it's a very different type of sale. It's a very emotional type sale, and you have to learn how to talk to people and figure out people's pain points to be able to sell.
Yeah.
So I had to learn how to do it, man. It was not easy for me in the beginning. I thought I was going to come in, honestly, be a superstar, and I definitely was far from it.
Well, I mean, you said you were in the mortgage business for over a decade, right? So you're used to doing it this very transaction. It's almost like the guys who come over from car sales, they say the same thing. Like, it's a transactional sale. Yeah. If I don't buy this car today, it's not necessarily going to impact my life. Just like if I don't refi through you, I mean, there's 18 other brokers that will it's not the end of the world. Yeah. Life insurance, it could be the end of the world.
Yeah, it could be.
You know, and I think it's a major adjustment, right?
Yeah.
How long did it take for you to get kind of acclimated to this type of sale and really understand that it's more emotional than transactional?
It took a few months, only because, like, money for leads. You know, I learned very early on that I needed leads. Like, if I had the ability to borrow money, I would have bet everything on. I would have gone out and taken out a loan to get money, but I couldn't do it, man. I just filed bankruptcy. I had no money. Right. So, like, I literally would spend $200 on leads. I was buying like 3, 4, 5-year-old leads. I'd make a sale, and then the next week I would spend $300 or $400, as much as I could, and I had to keep doing that and keep ramping up that lead flow, because I just understood, because the mortgage business was the same way. It was all lead based. Yeah. And then about 12 months after that is when my wife, she got to quit, come home, take care of the kids and make things easy. When she was home, that's what made my life easy. I realized that, like, no matter what happened, literally I could be out in the field working all day. I'd come home, her hair would be all crazy, and I'd be like, what happened? She's like, the car got a flat tire, the hot water heater went up. And she goes, but I didn't want to call you because I knew you were meeting with clients for the day. And she understood that it was important for me to be out there making sales and not being stressed with the things that were going on at home. So she took care of the house, and I was going out selling and recruiting and trying to build a business.
Your wife's awesome, by the way. I haven't seen her in a while, but she's great. So she's watching.
She asks about you all the time.
Good. Well, tell her if you're watching, hello, Susan. If not, tell her I said hello.
Yeah, she asks about you all the time, so I'll tell her that.
Awesome. So, again, this business is a completely different animal than what you were doing prior to. One of the biggest things for life insurance sales agent, I believe, is that first death claim. Yes. Right? Do you remember yours and how impactful
I remember, and I remember, that email coming through, and I'm, sitting, getting ready to walk into an appointment, and I'm like looking at what it is, and email comes over from our carrier, and I see that someone's passed away. I remember calling the family and talking to the daughter, and I remember selling that policy, and I think at that point, that's when everything becomes real. I think that's when you start to say, this is more than just building a business, that we actually, what we do has an impact on people's lives. I think that's when you get better at what you're doing. It helps you too with speaking to people. Yeah. Because someone has passed away and you realize that what you do matters. So it definitely helps when that first one comes.
It's
through.
One thing for me, if I'm working with you, to talk to you about, hey, I wrote this client and they passed away, and you're listening, but it's until you experience it, it's different, right? It's like in anything you do. It's like I could go to, I went to WrestleMania this year, right? Great. I can explain to you the feeling, Mike, but unless you're there in person, you ain't going to get it. Just like if you've gone to a football, anything, like it's different. But so when you, after that first claim, what changed for you in the in-home? Like what was the biggest, how did that impact you and then what you did, afterwards?
I think that, in addition to just getting better, I had to learn, man, I asked more questions than anyone. And I would ask, I would ask Frank every day. I'm like, what do you say? And I used to call. I would call before my day started. I would call after every appointment. I would call at the end of the day and go through my day. I would call everyone throughout the company, man. I wanted to learn. Like,
every time you and me we were talking like once a week about sales. Like, so they call this guy Mike Pfeil. I'm like, okay.
I wanted to learn. I wanted to get better. I thought I should be better than I was, but for me, it wasn't real easy coming into this,
right.
you know. But in addition to the death claim and just everything else and just doing it, and we talked about it, you know, another podcast just about attitude and activity. Just the more that you do it, but I think you really have to want it. My biggest thing too, and what changed for me, I remember very vividly. It seems like it was yesterday. I was sitting on the sofa with my 2 kids, and I couldn't even afford to take them to the movies that day. I was broke, man. I was doing this for a while, and I sat there. It was on a Saturday, and that day I realized, I was like, what am I doing sitting here? And people talk about all the time, they want work-life balance. They want to be with their kids more, but I'm with my kids, but I'm like, I can't do anything. I can't take them anywhere. And I remember that day is when I made the decision. I said, I'm just going to work as hard as I can. I remember when that started, I went 6 months straight, every single day. I didn't take a day off. My family went on vacation that summer. I didn't go. They went, but I stayed behind, and I continued to work. And it was every day. My schedule back then, which really changed everything for me, is I dialed Monday and I ran Tuesday. Then I dialed Wednesday, I ran Thursday. And then Friday I dialed for Saturday and Sunday. But I always left the hours of 10 and 2 open so I could fill up Saturday and as much as I could Sunday. And then I would get to my first appointment Saturday morning at 8 a.m. And then I would sit in my car for 2 hours between 8 and 10 and finish filling up Sunday. And then I would be 5 minutes down the road from my first appointment Saturday morning. And then I'd run my Saturday. I'd go home, and then I'd run all day Sunday. And I did that every day for 7 days a week. It was like, didn't matter. Yeah. You know, my daughter had things going on at school. I didn't go. My son had things going on. I didn't go. If the kids' birthdays were during the week and I was running appointments, I didn't go. We would then do it Friday after I was finished dialing. And it took that 6 months of just complete all in saying, I need to change where we are and what we're doing. And that's honestly, yes, the death claim mattered, but it was just making that final decision and knowing what I had to do. That's when everything began to change.
So it's kind of a sequence of events. You had that, and then you're sitting, and I think, you know, a lot of us, especially in this business, we've been there. Yeah. If you have kids where you're like, because kids always want to do something every day. Every day. Even like, sometimes now I just say no just to say no. Yeah. Like, can we go? No. Why? I don't know why, but just no, because we do shit all the time. Yep. But, you know, and if you've not been there, it's a horrible feeling to sit there with your kids wanting, like you said, can't even go to the movies. Yep. And you can't explain, and they're young, explain to them why you can't. Yeah. You know, it's hard. It is. So you had that, and then you decided to make a massive sacrifice. Yep. And you were very intentional about your schedule, right? Like that's key too. It's like if you don't have a schedule, you have a schedule. It just controls you. Like you got to be very intentional about it. I remember looking at me. Sean had this black book, and he still does to this day. Matter of fact, he does. When I call the other day, he's writing stuff in his book.
I've seen him with him.
And he would schedule in family time. Yeah. And when I first saw it, I didn't have kids yet. When I first saw it, I'm like, that's weird. Yeah. Like, they're your family. Don't you just, like, spend time with them whenever you want, right? Yeah. It's like, and he would write in, like, nope. He literally would, like, kids and, like, write a line, but then at, at 5 o'clock, I'm dialing. Yeah. But it was very intentional. Dude, and you've said this before, but hearing it again, it's crazy to hear someone say, my family went on vacation without me. Yeah. Yep. I had to. You had to. But I also wanted them to be able. I didn't want them to be like I was working, so they all went. They went to California for 2 weeks. Yeah, and I worked every day. Wow. And I was happy for them to be able to go and enjoy themselves. Yeah, we're working for our family, so I knew it wasn't going to be like that every year. Right. But that year, I told my wife, I was like, I can't go. I need to work. A funny story behind that though too. Like I made a huge mistake when I ordered my BPLs, and quite honestly, I wanted like 50 leads a week, a mix between like 5 counties. Yeah. And actually messed up, dude. I bought like 50 leads in every county. My lead bill was like $6,000-$7,000 a week, man. So I had no choice. Like I had to pay that damn bill too when it was coming in. So yeah, it was a good mistake to have. That was one of the biggest. That mistake right there taught me more than anything that you can't have too many leads. Right. Bro, I'm dropping $7,000 in a week on leads because of a mistake that I made. And I bet you run an assload of appointments. Oh my God. It was, it was honestly easy though, because I had so many leads to dial, so
a lot of things took place, but yeah, I was willing not to go, and I wanted them to go on vacation. I stayed, man. I had to work.
Wow. Well, that's
I
all.
had to
I
do what I
mean,
had to do.
it's like the other thing is, how old are your kids now?
My daughter's 24 now, man.
Wow.
Can you believe that? My son's 20.
That's
got
crazy.
his driver's license. 20 years old, just got his license. You know, he's one of them COVID babies.
Yeah.
They don't know anything about like driving or anything.
My son too. He's 19. He's taking his test this week. So
yeah, it's weird, right? When I was 16, man, that day I was driving around, but he's like 20 years old. But they say like all these kids that grew up in COVID, it's like weird.
Yep.
You know, all he does is play video games.
Yeah, 2020 messed him up. But hey, what are you gonna do? But dude, think about the lesson that your kids learn by watching that. Like, you know, I'm sure at the moment, like, how long ago was this?
That was back in 16.
Okay.
So yeah, like 8 years ago.
Yeah. So they were young teenage years. Yeah. Like at the time, I'm sure they're probably like, "Damn, Dad's not here. That kind of sucks." But think about what they learned from that. Like, I'm gonna sacrifice this for you.
Yep.
Right. Because the selfish thing to do would have been, we'll just go on vacation. We'll sabotage the business, right? Because you come back, it's a disaster.
It's gone. Yep.
But you knew, like, I got to do this right now.
You know, it's funny. As much as I've worked, when I had the mortgage company, it was a lot, and I worked a lot doing that. But one thing is, as much as I've worked and not done things, the kids, there's never any negative from it. All they remember is Dad works hard. He does what he has to do for us, you know. So it's never something negative where people think that if they're not there for their kids, they're going to fall apart, and they're not. They respect that work ethic, and they respect the fact that you go out there and just make things happen.
Absolutely.
I think it's a great lesson.
Oh, yeah. When you say, you're doing it for yourself, your own self. Oh, I need to be there. Like, dude, listen, I love one of my favorite things to do is spend time with my family. But I know if I don't work my ass off, I don't get to spend the time that I want to spend with them.
You know, spend quality time with them.
Exactly.
You know, when you're sitting there and you're with them and you're worried about money and there's all kinds of problems, that's not quality time.
No.
So much better when you're home and you're not worried about money. You can do the things that you need to do. People say, you know, money doesn't buy you happiness or whatever, but man, it makes things a heck of a lot better.
Yeah.
And if you're with the kids and you're able to be in that moment and not worry about things that are going on, you know, the time is more quality than
absolutely else. I agree. Yeah, it'll make you happy, but it's the things that you can do or things you can't do if you don't have it. Like, we live in a capitalistic society. Let's be clear of that, right? It costs money to do everything. It costs money to leave your house.
That's it, man. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, but I mean, just think about the lessons that they've learned, like that they'll take if they ever have kids in a family. They'll remember that.
Yeah.
They maybe at the time didn't understand it fully.
Yep.
But when they're, you know, in their 30s and they're raising kids, I remember when my dad did this.
I think when agents, and what I see, because, you know, deal with new agents every day, I think that's the biggest point where people don't, I go, at some point you're going to have to sacrifice. So I go, you're either going to have to do it now, or God forbid, you're 65 years old, you have to go be a greeter, you know, at Walmart. I go, at some point you're going to have to make that sacrifice. It's either going to be today or tomorrow. Yeah. But if you don't do it, you're never going to get ahead. Things are always going to remain the same, so you got to do something different.
It's easier to do when you're younger.
Oh, 100%.
It's easier, definitely.
I agree.
Dude, but that's awesome, and to see you, you know, come out on the other side of it. Like, you know, I asked you, what was it like telling your wife to go back to work? Yeah. What was it like when you told her that you could come home? You remember that? Yeah,
it was a great feeling. You know, I finally let her know, like, work sucked where she was. She didn't like it. She wasn't happy, and finally I was just like, just quit. And she was like, really? I was like, yeah, just quit. We're good. Yeah. You know, I was like, I can work. I can go out and sell, and whatever it takes, I'm going to make it happen. So just leave and just stay home with the kids. Yeah. People always laugh at me. They're like, and even now, like, my daughter just moved out, but she's like 22, 23, and then my boy's like 18. They're like, why is she? I go, it's not that she's home like watching the kids. They don't need her. But dude, I don't care. The kids, 18, there's a call coming in, like they were at school, they need to be picked up, or they got to go to a dentist appointment, they got to go to a doctor appointment, or there's someone coming over to the house to fix something. Yep. There's like a million things going on, and with her home managing all that and taking care of everything my kids need, like, it makes my life easy. It's
priceless, dude.
It is. Yep. You know, so yeah, they don't need a babysitter, but man, it makes things a heck of a lot easier. I don't have to worry about anything. So
absolutely.
She 100% manages the house, and that's what she takes care of, and I don't have to deal with any of that stuff. It makes life, you can just focus on working and don't have to deal with any of the BS. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of quitting, Mike, you quit us and came back, dude.
That was it, man. Yeah.
Let's touch on that a little bit. When was that? It
was 2018. I left in 18 and I came back in 19.
Okay.
That's when I came back.
What made you leave at that point?
You know, we all hear it and we see it every day, and you think the grass is greener on the other side, and people, you know, They tell you we got the best leads, we're better.
Yeah.
Or people would say, at FFL, you guys, you work too hard. You don't need to work that hard. We got it easy over here. And I left for what I thought was a better opportunity. It didn't take long being there that I realized that things weren't better.
Yeah.
It was just,
How soon did you realize it after you left?
Man, I could see it really quickly.
Yeah.
Man. We were there for like 2 months, and the entire team that I had but people complain sometimes about the things that go on here. Like Sean has always preached work, and he's true, right? You have to work in the beginning. And if people don't have, I think that pressure sometimes, that pressure is a good thing, and people don't realize that it is. And when I was there, and when people are broke, and then the owner of the company is saying, you deserve family time, you deserve work-life balance, those people, they start believing that, and they're broke and not working,
right.
and things fell apart very, very quickly. So after like 2 months, man, we had a $250,000 team that was gone inside 90 days.
Wow.
It completely disappeared there. So I'm sitting there, and the team is gone. Things aren't working. Like I'm looking around. I'm like, this is like crazy. I was like, if we were at FFL, like we would have kept growing. But yeah, after a couple of months, it was just it was all gone.
Yeah.
And then fast forward the following year, and I did it very strategically. I was talking to someone that I knew talked to Sean all the time.
Yeah.
And we were on the phone, and I knew if I said something to him, I knew it would get back to Sean inside 5 minutes, right? So I'm like, man, things suck here. Like, this is not good. I should have never left. And then 5 minutes later, my phone rings. Sean calls, and I already knew. I'm not stupid. I knew exactly what would happen. So Sean calls and says, I see his number pop up, and he goes, how are things going? I go, Sean, things are not good at all. He goes, really? I go, yeah. He goes, well, what about the team? I go, it's just like me pretty much by myself. And he goes, do you want to talk? And I was like, I'll be up there tomorrow. So I jumped in a plane the next day and flew up here, and I won't forget that. I came walking in the front door. He's like standing there with his arms out, and he hugged me, and he was like, welcome home, and so we went in his office and talked, and he was like, well, how many of you guys are coming back? What's going on? I was like, just me.
Yeah.
He was like, why? I was like, man, those other guys, they're happy where they are. It's just me. I'm going to come here by myself and just start completely over again.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay. When I came back again, man, after going through all the struggles at the beginning of the business, I leave, fall back into financial difficulty again, and I come back, and I'm like, I got no money for leads. Like, things aren't good. He gave me his credit card to buy leads to get started again, to get things ramped back up. Yeah. And, that was in 2019. It took me 90 days from October 19 to January to hit VP again.
Really?
So I had it was me and 6 guys. We hit VP in 90 days, and then just kept rolling. You know what? Coming back the second time was so much easier because I learned so much from the first time. And, people ask all the time, what would it be like to go back, to be 18 years old again, but have all that knowledge in your head of where you are today? Like, what would your life look like? Yeah. And that's kind of how it was when I came back. I knew everything that I should do. I knew everything that I shouldn't do. And I knew everything that, it would take to get things rolling again, and just being able to implement all that knowledge because I had it all in my head. Yeah. And that's why, things changed and we grew very, very quickly from there. It took us like 23 months. We hit $1 million, right 19 months after, or 23 months after I came. I came back, and I'm working, and, like I said, 90 days to hit VP, me and 6 guys, and then we kind of went from there, and here we are.
That's awesome. And it's funny because, like, you got to kind of restart, but without a lot of the other things that held you back in the beginning, right? Like, you've done it once, so you know how to do it. Mm-hmm. The fear of, like, the uncertainty of never being there is gone, and it was kind of like, a reset. Yeah, it was. Which is why you hit it, a lot quicker. Like, how long did it take you to hit VP the first time?
It probably took a year.
Yeah.
And it was different back then, too. Oh, yeah. We're writing paper apps and faxing in applications. I think the biggest team at that month was at like $1 million in the entire company. We're at 200 when I left. Yeah. But it was just much different environment. When you're brand new and we watch podcasts and we hear all these things that you think don't matter, right? We're all, when people jump on training calls, they're always waiting. They think it's that one, like, you're going to hear this trick that someone knows. And then by the end of the call, people look so disappointed. They were waiting for that one thing. Right, something new. Yeah, I'm like, it was all those little things that you think don't matter that all add up. Like when people say, you should be on the phone at 8:00 in the morning. You're like, what's the matter? I'll jump on at 10. Or people say you should wake up early in the morning, go to the gym and do something. You're like, why does that matter? Like, or you should go to bed early at night so you can get up early. Why does that matter? I want to stay up till 2 and sleep until 8, 9. And you should buy leads every week. You need to triple dial your leads. You need to learn to, get rid of the negativity in your life. Like it's all these little things that you think that, but it's all those things that allow you to have success in this business. But people are always waiting for that one big thing. But when I came back, I understood, man, I changed very quick. I got back, man. I was up at 5 in the gym, like listening or reading the books every day. And I was working and understood how important Saturdays and Sundays were. You see a lot of people now, they're not working on the weekends. Right. Those weekends are a game changer.
Well, people take things for granted.
Yeah, we do.
Like, would you say you kind of took this for granted at that point? Like,
yeah, in the beginning. Yeah. And you don't realize what you have. But when I came back, I understood.
Then you realized.
I understood everything that we had here and not to take it for. I realized how good we do have it here. And a lot of people don't realize it. But going to somewhere else and it being an absolute disaster and then coming back and realizing what we do have here and that anyone, you can build a business here if you're doing the right things. And that's what everything
Well, I think you got to figure out for yourself. I could tell you, hey, Mike, this is the best opportunity in life insurance ever because I worked at XYZ company. But there's going to be part of you that go, he's just saying that because he works here, right? 100%. He's just saying it because he's been here since day one. But then you figured it out yourself.
Yes.
You said you really early on you realized it was the wrong move.
Yeah.
Why did it take you a year to come back?
It was easier to leave than it was to come back.
Really?
Like it's just ego.
You know? Like swallow your pride.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I wasn't going to be the one, but when I talked to that person and told him how I knew it would get a call to come, but I wasn't at that point willing to reach out and say, "Man, I made a huge mistake."
Yeah.
So yeah.
Dude, I mean, I commend you for that because that's not easy. I guarantee there's people out there now that left that would love to come back but cannot swallow their pride to go, hey, Sean, could you? I mean, dude, I've seen plenty of people come and go. Like, it is what it is, dude. We're all human. We all make mistakes. Sometimes we just got to. But I also think, you came back I felt like a different person. More humble, like it's been, because that
was a very humbling experience.
I bet. Yeah.
So that will definitely humble you.
Yeah.
Yep. A meeting with Sean that day, Frank did not want me to come back, man.
I remember.
Dude, he told Sean, he goes, if Mike comes back, I quit. And then Sean was like, okay, quit.
Yeah.
And obviously he didn't quit. But then Sean was like, Mike, he goes, Frank doesn't want you here. There's probably be a lot of people that won't talk to you. He goes, but I tell you what, he goes, stay out of all the groups on Facebook. He goes, put your head down. He goes, and just work. He goes, allow your numbers to speak for themselves. And he goes, if you want to be a great leader, just be a good soldier. He goes, be a great soldier first before you're going to be a leader. And he goes, and just stay quiet and just work and allow your numbers to speak for them. He goes, one day your numbers will be high enough where Frank will thank me forever for you coming back. And he was like, just do that.
Right. So it's been cool to watch your guys' dynamic from before after, which, we should do in a few weeks is have you guys both on here.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it. We'll see how Frank feels.
We're gonna do that. Yeah.
But no, it's awesome to see, you where you've been, where you're at now. And it just speaks to stuff we talk about all the time. It's like you said, you're going to watch this, you're going to look for some, new, enlightening, but it's really not. It's attitude, activity, it's mindset, it's keep working, it's make sacrifices, because you got to give up to get up. Like you can't keep doing the same thing over and over and expect new results.
Everything, when a new agent comes in, I go, everything you've done in your entire life up until today has got you to this point. So if you want it to be different, you're gonna have to do something different.
Right.
And some people take the advice and some people don't.
Yep.
A lot of people are looking for that one magical thing, but it just comes down to a couple basic things. Every time, all these trainings, it's always the same stuff. It's just different people kind of putting their own spin on it, but it's always the same thing. There is no magic to it.
100%, dude. Well, that's awesome. If you could go back to Mike Pfeil of just getting into the insurance industry, right? Knowing what you know now, what's some advice you'd give yourself?
I would come in and I would definitely, I'd be more humble, and I think I would listen more to the people around me than thinking I know the right way.
Yeah.
When people are telling you to do stuff, I wish I would have done that. Do I wish I would go back and change it? I don't, because those things happen. It's kind of
right. They make you who you are today.
Led me to where I am today. So I'm not upset the way things went, but I wish maybe I was a different person when I was here that first time.
Yeah.
But things are going great now.
Well, hey, it's been cool to watch and see where you're at now, man. It's definitely been impressive, and I appreciate everything you do for us, for the company. I'd like to wrap with a couple questions that have nothing to do with life insurance, some fun stuff. So, are you a music guy, a movie guy?
Movies.
Movie guy.
Yeah, I do watch a lot of movies.
All right. You have like a top 3. These are my 3. If I said, Mike, give me 3 movies that are, your favorite of all time, what would those be?
Batman.
Which one?
The one with I can't think of his name now.
Michael Keaton?
No, not him.
Christian Bale?
Yes.
Okay.
That's my favorite.
With Heath Ledger?
Yes.
Okay. Dark Knight? Dark Knight.
Dark Knight.
There
My
you
son
go.
and I, we watched that. I haven't watched it in a while, but that's one that we've watched probably
That's a
10
great
times.
one.
Shawshank Redemption.
Okay.
Great movie.
Yeah.
Watch that one a bunch. I can't think of a third right now.
All right. Those are your top 2.
Yeah.
If you could be any fictional character in history, who would it be and why?
Batman.
Yeah. Everyone picks that. I no lie, Mike, out of like 10 people, 9 people pick Batman.
Really?
All right. Why?
I like all of his cool gadgets on his
He's got some cool
costume.
tech.
Yeah, and then he's got cool cars.
Yep.
I mean, he's got, it's funny, he doesn't really have any superpowers.
No.
But all of his tools that he has are just cool, man.
Yep.
And then he's got his guy that can make anything for him and make anything happen. Oh, that's
How cool is that guy who's a billionaire decides to go fight crime?
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's awesome.
I like it, man. It's cool.
That's
show,
awesome.
Man.
Well, dude, I appreciate you doing this. I really do. Thanks for everything that you do. And guys, thanks for tuning in. Check us out every week right here on True Talk. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Like this, share this with the rest of your team. And you know where to find us every week. We'll see you next week.